Rawson Twitchell runs inside. Rawson Twitchell into the second level, the 10, the 5, touchdown Butte County.
It's time for another weekend of high school football in Idaho, and it's time for another edition of Gem State Game Day.
Simmons to throw. Going deep down the field. He's got a man isolated. Did he catch it? He did. Yeah. In traffic. What a grab by Guy Wheeler.
Before you head out tonight to cheer on your favorite team, get caught up on the latest news, notes, and previews from this weekend's Gridiron action.
Here's the snap, and it's intercepted at the 10-yard line. That's Bodie Brackenberry. Jackalow sniffed it out.
Gem State Game Day is brought to you by Valleywide Cooperative, Project Filter, and the Idaho Transportation Department.
This one's going to go all the way, 70 yards, no flag, touchdown Valley View. Austin Belknap, 70 yards to the house. Buckle up, here we go.
That's right. Welcome into the Week 7 edition of Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com, broadcasting live every Thursday morning, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can, of course, watch Gem State Game Day at your leisure anytime, Thursday or Friday. Just make sure you get it in before you go out so you can sound smart and knowledgeable when you're in the stands talking about the game that you are at. Welcome in, everybody. Brandon Baney. Let's introduce you to our panel here on the Week 7 edition of Gem State Game Day. You know him from the East Idaho Prepcast. He's also been on an earlier edition of Gem State Game Day this year. It's Joel Richardson. Joel, thanks for coming back.
Hey, good morning, Brandon. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to talk all football.
No doubt. And making his Gem State Game Day debut, in terms of talking live, you hear him every time in the show intro. He's that guy that called that incredible 70-yard touchdown run by Valley View's Austin Belknap a season ago. It's Lucas Gebhart. He is a broadcaster for us in the Treasure Valley, and is also the co-host of the Fighting Taters show on IdahoSports.com. Lucas, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, Fighting Taters show, we try to do it every Thursday or so, kind of cover the college aspect, what these kids are doing after they leave high school. So, covering guys like Colson Loveland as they, tear it up at Michigan, and covering Boise State, U of I, ISU football primarily right now because we are in football season. But yeah, that clip, I remember that game. That was Burley Valley View last year. It was at Boise State. Gatlin Bear had just committed to Boise State. This is before he decommitted, and the whole Avalos thing went down. But man, there was like 200 points scored in that game. That was like one of the first touchdowns of the game, and so yeah, it just seemed like the right call there. Where it's like, hey, we're gonna have a lot of points here tonight, so let's buckle up.
Yeah, it turned out to be a very prescient statement there from Lucas a season ago. Well, as we get set for Week 7 already of the high school football season, only 4 weeks to go in the regular season here in the great state of Idaho, weeks 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then we'll buckle up and get ready for the postseason. So we always revisit what happened the week prior, just briefly. This is mostly a look ahead, but we do look back just very quickly, and we do so by taking a look at last week's headlines. What were the big storylines that we took away from week 6 of the high school football season? Well, the first headline that jumped out immediately was rivalry game winning streaks continue. Minico defeated Burley 64-17 in the River rivalry for its 20th straight win. Highland beat Pocatello 28-18 in the Black and Blue Bowl, 14 straight wins for Highland there. Skyline beat Idaho Falls in the Emotion Bowl 47-0 for its 3rd straight win. How about Shoshone? Off to its best start since 2011. The Indians are 3-1 after defeating Castleford 82-12, and they're seeking their first playoff berth since 2000, the turn of the millennium. Way to go, Shoshone. And razor thin, 15 games decided by 1 possession. Glacier Peak, Washington beats Post Falls 47-42. Nampa beats Skyview on a walk-off field goal 31-28. Middleton gets Meridian in overtime 31-30. Blackfoot beats Bonneville 16-12. Valley View over Emmett late. Game-winning touchdown scored with 13 seconds to go by Onyx Carson 18-14. Weiser beats McCall Donnelly 27-21. American Falls over South Fremont 14-8. Snake River beats Teton by a score 28-21. Marsh Valley over Filer 27-20. Nampa Christian beats Melba right here on IdahoSports.com 20-14. Declo shuts out Westside 6-0. big win for the Hornets. West Jefferson beats Grangeville in a Saturday neutral site game at Nampa High School, 48-40. Firth beats Ryrie, 28-20. Wilder comes from behind to beat Idaho City, 36-30. And Chalice, a fourth quarter comeback for the Ages to beat North Gem, 40-38. Lucas, 15 games across the state decided by one possession or less. That's incredible.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible. You don't see that, every week. And, it's just what a treat we had last week. And especially, one game that I know we're going to touch on a little bit here, that Middleton Meridian game, coming down to the last play in overtime. I thought Valley View had kind of a little bit of a statement win against Emmett. They have the new coach, so they're trying to kind of emerge there in the 5A SIC to kind of be that second or third team kind of out of that conference. So I thought those were two really good wins. Nampa, I thought, had a solid win against Skyview as well. So, those were just a few that kind of stuck out to me. But, yeah, I didn't realize how many games were close until you sent out the show rundown for the show this morning. So, that was incredible, 15 games.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And of course, we always look back at one. We call it our uncut gem of the week. What was the most exciting game start to finish? Doesn't matter what the implications were, just the best pure football game. It was at the 6A Southern Idaho Conference. It was a game that we were broadcasting live on IdahoSports.com. Ryan, Luke, and Paul Kingsbury were on the call for it last Friday night. Middleton gets Meridian in overtime, 31-30. Meridian did not lead until there was 1:10 left in the third quarter. Spencer Walker comes on and drills a 40-yard field goal to give Meridian a 3-point lead. Middleton responds with 4:49 to go in the fourth on a 35-yard field goal from Tyler Robinson. And then we go to overtime. Middleton gets the ball first here, Joel. It took like 2 plays, 9-yard touchdown run by Braden Stike. Middleton jumps ahead by a touchdown. Meridian's possession ends in a touchdown. Zeke Martinez threads the needle to Dahani Alvarado. And then Joel, Coach John Zamberlin makes the decision to try and go for 2. If he is successful, he's the hero and a genius like Bill Belichick. If he fails, well, Meridian's 0-2 in league play. How did this one turn out?
He went for 2. And, well, dude.
Kid from Middleton made a play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now Middleton's 2-0. Meridian's 0-2, Brandon.
Yeah, so Weston Mills comes up with the game winning deflection. There was some confusion out there on the field for Middleton. There were basically 2 separate calls that were made defensively out on the field. So Weston Mills was kind of like guessing almost out there and ends up getting beat on the play, but dives full extension and just barely knocks the ball away as Zeke Martinez was trying to complete the game-winning 2-point conversion pass. And so, yeah, Middleton beats Meridian in overtime by 1, 31-30, and all of a sudden the Warriors are 1-4 overall, 0-2 now in Southern Idaho Conference Foothills Division play. So let's just jump right into it, guys. Let's take a look at what's going on across the 6A landscape here. We have the current standings to the left, and then the Week 7 schedule on our right. It's been all chalk so far in the Southern Idaho Conference. In the Foothills Division, Rocky Mountain, Timberline, and Middleton are all 2-0 in pod play. Meridian, Capital, Centennial are all 0-2. Same story in the River Division. Bora, Eagle, Kuna all 2-0. Boise, Owyhee, Mountain View all 0-2. Lucas, I'm going to give you because this is your first time here on Gem State Game Day. I'm going to give you the run of the board here. All of the games that are listed in Week 7 across the 6A landscape. Which one caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, kind of coming into this week, the one that really kind of standing out to me here is that Timberline Middleton game. Obviously just talked about Middleton and how they're coming off really an emotional win last week against Meridian. Meridian, by the way, off to a 1-4 start. I know they have a tough schedule. I don't think a whole lot of people saw them starting 1-4, but on the same note, I think a lot of people thought Timberline would really take a step forward this year. I don't know if a whole lot of people saw 4-1 coming for Timberline, but here they are. First week in October, they're sitting at 4-1. Middleton's 3-2. So this is kind of a prove-it game for Timberline. This is kind of the are you for real type of game. They got to come all the way across from East Boise all the way to Middleton. So you're basically traveling the whole Treasure Valley. It's about as long as road trips get out here. But here they come into Middleton in a really raucous atmosphere, probably one of the toughest atmospheres to play in the whole SIC in Middleton. But Timberline's got a really nice roster. They've had a really nice year, but this is a tough test for Timberline and for Middleton, kind of coming off the emotions of last week after winning what they kind of felt was a game that they kind of took a step forward as well with that win over Meridian. I know Meridian's 1-4, but that's still a pretty good team. And I think especially if they can figure it out down the stretch here and kind of still sneak their back way into the playoffs here, I still think Meridian is going to be a dangerous team. And Brandon, you talked about the confusion that Middleton had defensively and how, Coach Zamberlin, he gets it. He's the genius. If he doesn't, you're questioning it. It kind of tells me that they had what they wanted. They had the confusion. They had the play there. So, and I do like the decision to go for 2 there, to try to go for the win, just because of how Meridian has kind of started off the year at this 1-4 record. So, yeah, Meridian back against the wall here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I will note in high-profile games this year, Post Falls and Lakeland a couple weeks ago, Pocatello and Sandpoint in that neutral site shootout in Butte, Montana, and then this game, 3 times a coach decided to go for 2 late. All 3 times they were denied. So that's the storyline there. Yeah. Joel, what's the 6A game that catches your eye here in week 7?
I'm from East Idaho, Sean. I'm looking at Rigby at Highland. For Rigby, it's their first conference game, and I really want to know who Rigby is. They've had most of their games on the road at neutral sites, like you mentioned, and we haven't seen a lot of Rigby play. The closest glimpse I think we have of Rigby is their walloping 42-7 win over BK a few weeks back. So really interested to see who Rigby is, especially against this Highland team, the defending 5A, now 6A champs. This is Highland's second conference game. Thunder Ridge and Pokey both gave them a game, and I don't think I know Thunder Ridge is not as good as Rigby. I know Pokey is not as good as Rigby, but they both gave Highland a game. But Highland continues to find ways to win. Their coach talks about their special teams. And we don't get a lot of special teams action. We get it at the higher ranks for sure, 5A, 6A, but we don't talk about them enough. Special teams matters when you get into November. And then their defense, those are qualities that you can take in deep into November. Highlands, they're 1-0, 6-0 overall, 24 points per game. Rigby, again, first conference game for them. They're 4-1, 37 points per game. Both are giving up about 15, 20 points a game. So very interested to see this game. Oh, by the way, Highland's number 6 in max preps. Rigby's number 2. Media, Highland is number 2. And Rigby, they have the highest strength of schedule and the better point differential off of Highland. So that's probably why Rigby gets the nod over Highland. But that game's going to be tough. And on the East Idaho Prepcast, I called Rigby winning this game, but I'd be very, very interested to be wrong in this one.
Yeah, see, and I'm kind of intrigued. That Rigby at Highland game is our IdahoSports.com Gem State Game of the Week, something new we're doing this year. We pick one game above all the rest, and we give it a little extra polish and shine. There's going to be multiple cameras, enhanced graphics, and so Friday night, if you want to tune in, all the 6A fans around the state, Rigby at Highland, it's our Gem State Game of the Week on IdahoSports.com. But see, to me, it's the other way. Highland needs to prove it to me, which sounds counterintuitive as a 6-0 team, but man, they have had some close encounters. I called their game at the Rocky Mountain Rumble, a game they won against a Nevada opponent very late in the game, but they have a really good defense. I still have questions about that Highland offense. I've seen Rigby with my own eyes twice at the Rocky Mountain Rumble, and I was on the call for that absolute dismantling of Bishop Kelly a few weeks ago. Rigby's good. I'm telling you. So to me, Highland is the team that's got to come and improve it. A lot of interesting games here. Of course, up north, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Lake City. They are still in non-conference play. Post Falls is going to play a really good battleground team from Washington. Lucas, you talked about Meridian having a chance to maybe bankroll some wins here at the end of the season. Well, they're hosting Rocky Mountain, kind of the consensus number one team in 6A right now. That doesn't get any easier. The game I'm going to spotlight, though, is actually a battle of winless teams. It is Centennial at Capital. Each of these teams are 0-5. They're each 0-2 in Foothills Division play. But what's important here is the final week of the regular season in the 6A Southern Idaho Conference, they have those cross-divisional games where playoff bids are awarded to the winners. So as a reminder, the two teams that finish in first place in both the Foothills and River Division will play each other in the SIC championship game. Both of them automatically go to the playoffs. And then 2 plays 4. Let me think here. 2 plays 5 and 3 plays 4 from the other divisions. And then the 2 teams that finish in 6th place play each other in kind of a 6th place game, as it were. And generally the team there doesn't have a chance to advance to the playoffs. So you're talking about the winner of this Capital Centennial team having the ability to earn a playoff spot via one of those cross-divisional games. The loser is probably going to be stuck in that 6th place game with no upward trajectory. So that to me is a very crucial game. It's almost like a mini playoff game ahead of the actual playoffs. So, but let's talk about it. We are finally into October, guys, and I made the vow that once we got to October, we'd start looking at playoffs, max preps rankings. What would the bracket look like if the postseason started today? So here's what I've got for you up on the screen. Let's take a look at this, guys. And again, if you're watching this, go ahead and make your screen full size. It'll be a little bit easier to read and navigate. But we basically take the league standings, and then if there's a tie in the league standings, we go with who's got the higher max preps ranking. That's kind of how we determine where everybody gets slotted. But Rocky Mountain, Madison, Coeur d'Alene, Eagle would be your 4, teams with buys right now. Bora would take on Cuna. Post Falls would host Boise. Timberline would host Rigby, and Highland would host Middleton. Lucas, what jumps out to you right away when you see this, if the playoffs started today bracket?
Well, I think it's Rigby sitting at an at-large seed at 11. Brandon, I'm with you. Rigby is, I think, a lot better than where they're sitting right now, not only in the media poll, but here in this bracket as we look ahead to it. Basically, and Joel kind of touched on it, we just don't know a whole lot about them yet. Part of it is they played nothing but out-of-state teams, but they were over here in the Treasure Valley a couple weeks ago for the Northwest Showdown. Just took apart Moses Lake, a school out of Washington. That the whole point of the Northwest Showdown is they want to take the top talent from Idaho and match it up against some of the top talent from Oregon and Washington. So don't know as much about the Washington schools as I know about Idaho schools, but I do know that the people that were picking those games thought Moses Lake was going to be pretty good in Washington, and Rigby took them apart. So Rigby kind of sitting there at that 11 seed is something that I think if they, let's say they stay at 11, I don't want to be number 3. I'll put it that way.
Well, and no matter who it is, Madison, Highland, or Rigby, somebody is going to take one of those at-large bids. There's only 2 bids, quote unquote, available from the East. Really, it's looking like that last playoff spot is going to come down to either a team from the Treasure Valley or maybe the 2nd place finisher or the 3rd place finisher from the North, which could be Lake City at this point. So, but in those max preps rankings, Lake City has some work to do. They're currently 16th. Meridian is 14th. Owyhee is 13th. Right now, they wouldn't be in the playoffs, so they've got to start bankrolling some wins if they want to get in here. Joel, anything jump out to you on this first glance bracket?
Yeah, 4-5. If I'm 4-5, I'm there to – obviously you want to win, but it really doesn't matter because you get to play Rocky Mountain next, and you're going to lose to Rocky Mountain. So if I'm 4-5, I'm happy to be there. I want to get the win, but your next game – you're going to be going home, unfortunately.
That top 5 or top 4, if it shakes out like I think it will, Rocky, Eagle, Coeur d'Alene, and probably Rigby or Highland, maybe we'll see. That no matter what, those are 4 really good teams. That's going to be tough quarterfinal games on the road for sure. So that is the 6A classification, guys. When we come back here on Gem State Game Day, we'll break down what's going on in the 5A ranks. More brackets to come. Yes, stay tuned. We're back right after this. It's Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
Later.
Here. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I have my seatbelt on.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Joel Richardson and Lucas Gebhart. All right, let's take a look at the 5A breakdown this week. Again, standings on your left, and then the schedule of games on the right. Joel, I'll let you go first this time. What is the Week 7 matchup in the 5A landscape that you've got circled?
Yeah, there were a lot of good ones for this week, but I'm looking at Twin Falls Bruins at Pokey Thunder. These are traditionally good teams in 5A. They've kind of taken a step back, but they're still good teams. I really want to. This matchup is going to show us a little bit more of who they are, and it'll be a huge boost to their Max Preps rankings. Whether you like it or not, you gotta please the Max Preps ranking gods, Brandon. And so a win here would be big for both of them. They both played Sandpoint. I thought it was interesting that Pokey got the win, Twin Falls got the loss, but both games were close. You mentioned Pokey playing Sandpoint earlier, going for 2 and getting it. Sandpoint went for 2 and didn't get it. Is that
right?
And so those wins were both, the win for Pokey and the loss for Twin Falls was both close against Sandpoint. We're both close for Sandpoint. Twin Falls coming in at 3-0 in conference play, but that Great Basin Conference is not great, Brandon. Just to put it plainly, but they are 3-1 overall. And then Twin Falls, they're coming in number 15 to Max Preps, pretty low. Again, a win against Pokey, who is at number 7, would be a big boon to their rankings. And they've only gotten 1 vote in the media poll. So Twin Falls not getting a lot of love from media in Idaho. And all that's probably from the low strength of schedule. And then that Valley View game, Valley View is a better team than they have been in a long time. We already mentioned them already, Brandon, but that game got canceled. That was due to the weather, I believe, from the smoke. So it's just kind of too bad for Twin Falls, where that could have been a good win or potentially another close, good loss that would have boosted their Max Preps. And then Pokey, they haven't played a conference game yet, of course, because there's only 2 other teams in their conference. They're 3-2. They've played some good games, a close game against Highland, and then but they got a higher strength of schedule than Twin, and then they're in that 4. They're ranked 4 in the media poll. So very interested to see how these perennial good teams in the 5A matchup against each other.
Yeah, that Twin Falls Valley View game got wiped out due to the smoke that was going on.
Right.
Back in early September. That 1 vote from the media poll, that was for me. I kind of believe in Twin Falls a little bit.
All right.
They've had the pedigree in years past, but yeah, this is I think a must-win game for Twin Falls if they want to improve their standing in the Max Preps rankings. Lucas, what's the 5A game you've got your eye on?
Yeah, the one that I'm kind of looking at here is this Valley View Ridgeview game. I'm more interested in Valley View to see, is this the second team that we were just talking about in this 5A SIC? Valley View is a team that's won 3 games in a row now. We just talked about it, had that first game canceled. They lost to Bora, which turns out it's a pretty good 6A team this year. And then a 20-point win over Skyview, beat up on Caldwell, and then a 4-point win against Emmett last week. So, obviously a big win for them, but how do they respond to it? And we have a common opponent here with Ridgeview here with their game last week against Emmett. So when Emmett played Ridgeview back a couple weeks ago, it was a 49-13 win for Emmett. So now you're kind of looking at that game for Valley View to see, okay, if they're really the second best team in this conference, and we talk about Max Preps, how important it is, especially in the 5A playoff bracket, probably looking for Valley View to be in that same ballpark, kind of that 49-13 win. So kind of looking at that game, not necessarily because I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm more looking at it to see how Valley View is really kind of stacking up with these other teams here in the SIC. So that's one that I got my eye on. I think that Twin Pokey game, I agree with you guys. I think that's a must win for Twin, starting to get a little bit of love in the polls from the one guy that votes on this panel. But, maybe you can get another vote here for Valley View if they get a big win this week too. So who knows?
for sure. Taking a look at the rest of the schedule here, guys. One note, Lewiston is hosting Hermiston, Oregon. It is the final game for Lewiston's old football field. They got a new facility, new digs, and they'll debut that in 2 weeks. But the old field will close out. Bengals fans are hoping with a win over Hermiston, Oregon. The game I'll spotlight is in East Idaho, the High Country Conference, Blackfoot at Hillcrest. The winner of this game will be firmly in second place, right behind Skyline. The Grizz are 3-0 in High Country Conference play. Hillcrest is 2-1. Blackfoot is 1-1. For Blackfoot especially, they had that win over Pocatello in overtime. That was a game. Was that a game where they decided to go for 2 and got it? I think so. and that might be the one game where the 2-point conversion actually paid off. So if Blackfoot could pull a win over Pocatello and Hillcrest, I mean, that sky's the limit for first-year coach Josh Stewart and the Broncos. But let's take a look at what's going on with this 5A. And again, if the playoffs started today, we've got a ways to go, but these are the current Max Preps rankings. And here's how the 5A bracket works, guys. They take 16 teams to the playoffs. The first 8 seeds 1 through 8, are determined based on district representation. 1 from the north, District 1 and 2, 2 from District 3, 2 from District 4, 1 from District 5, and 2 from District 6. They all get seeded 1 through 8. And then the remaining teams, 9 through 16, get seeded at large berths via the Max Preps rankings. So you'll notice right away that some of the teams, like Lewiston, for example, is 5th in the Max Preps rankings. Well, they're only the 9 seed here because only one team from the north gets an auto bid. So there's some funky things going on with that. But you would have basically the 16-1 Preston at Skyline, the 9 and 8 Lewiston at Twin Falls, the 13 and 4 Emmett at Lakeland, 12 at 5 is Nampa at Pocatello, the 15 at 2 is Shelley at Hillcrest, the 10-7 is Blackfoot at Valley View, 14 at 3 is Bonneville and Bishop Kelly, and then the 11-6, Minico and Sandpoint. What a juicy first-round matchup that would be. Joel, what jumps out to you when we look at this 5A?
Yeah, speaking of Minico Sandpoint, if I'm Minico, I want to get that 5th seed or even higher. I want to get out of that Bishop Kelly bracket. Minico played Bishop Kelly a few weeks ago, and it was not pretty, man. So if I'm Minico, I'm winning out. I'm beating Twin Falls in that big rivalry game. I'm winning the rest of my games. I'm putting Preston Cranny Sonner on my back, or I'm getting on Preston Cranny Sonner's back and getting that 4-3 seed because I do not want to play Bishop Kelly in the next round. They should. That's good. That's a big game right there against Sandpoint. I think they beat Sandpoint, but then you got to play Bishop Kelly, and Bishop Kelly probably wins the game just because the matchups aren't very good between with the offense defense.
I said this last year to my detriment because they ended up winning the championship, but Bishop Kelly plays with fire. Like every week, I feel like that Minico game was actually pretty close until the fourth quarter. Bishop Kelly finally pulled away, only won like 18-6, I think, or something like that. And so, that would be an interesting rematch if it happened for sure. Lucas, what jumps out to you when you look at this hypothetical bracket?
Yeah, I think hypothetical is a good word to use here because there's no world that Bishop Kelly is the 3 seed, is there? There's just, I know that's kind of what we're looking at here, but I mean, they're the number 1 team in 5A. I think kind of maybe a similar thing happened to them last year where they were maybe a little bit underseeded, partially because the East Idaho League is a lot stronger than the SIC. That's just kind of the way it is. But Bishop Kelly, I mean, they got Valley View and Emmett still on their schedule, so they got 4 games left. So they'll close the year with Skyview, Valley View, Ridgeview, and Emmett. Favored probably in all of those games, but can they win those games by enough points to get up to a 1 or 2 seed? Because right now they'd be going on the road in a state semifinals game as a number 1 seed in the media polls, not here in the Max Prep rankings. But is there enough left on Bishop Kelly's schedule to get them up just 1 spot so they don't have to go on the road for this potential state title, defending their state championship?
Yeah, we'll see. For the record, again, as somebody who votes in the media poll, I've had Skyline number 1 for a couple of weeks now. I believe in them a little more than Bishop Kelly, but so you're looking at who's just missing the cut line. Idaho Falls, Skyview at 0-5, actually, because they've been so close in so many games. The teams that are in jeopardy here are kind of like Emmett. I feel like Emmett's pretty solid in Bonneville, but really it's Shelley and Preston. And you're like, well, what about Twin? They're 15th. Well, 2 teams get to go from the Great Basin Conference. Twin Falls is locked into that second slot, even though they're very low in the overall rankings. So really it's Shelley at number 14 that could be in danger. They've got a game they've got to really focus in on and win. They're playing Skyline this week. This would be a big opportunity for the Russets to improve their standing, but that is just to, again, just a fun exercise. If the 5A playoff started today, here's what it would look like. Let's keep the fun times rolling. We will go to go ahead, Lucas.
I just want to add what you were just talking about with Twin. What that means is since they're that low in the Max Prep rankings, there is 0 room for error for them in their conference. They have to win every single game because they don't get that automatic seed. they're in trouble. There's no room in conference games for Twin. There's no room for error there. They have to win those games.
Yeah, and again, to refresh, the current standings are Minico and Twin are both 3-0. Canyon Ridge is 2-1. Twin already has beaten Canyon Ridge in their annual service bowl games, so they've got the leg up there. Burley, Jerome, Mountain Home, a combined 0-7 in league play. I think Joel wants to petition maybe to take the Great out of the Great Basin Conference. We'll just call it the Basin Conference.
yeah, Minico, Twin Falls, but yeah, everybody else kind of struggling. But Minico, if Twin Falls wins out, that Minico Twin Falls game is going to be electric. We got to be there for broadcasting, Brandon.
Yeah, last year Twin Falls won that game over Minico, and so we will see the Minico Spartans certainly will be motivated to get revenge there. That's way down the line, though. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll come back and look at the 4A. 4A's got to be simpler, right? Not as many teams. Oh no, not so fast, my friends. Not after Sugar has stumbled and lost 2 games for the first time since Abe Lincoln was in the White House. I don't know when the last time Sugar Salem lost 2 games in a row. We'll talk about it right after this break. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
We're a Valley-wide country store. For 100 years, we've been your #1 choice for food, fuel, farm supplies, and just about everything else you could need to get you through your day. We know you work until the job is done, and so do we. For gas on the go or a little extra to help you get down the road, you can count on us. We are proud to employ your neighbors and to be a cornerstone of your community. We're Valley-wide. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney joined by Joel Richardson and Lucas Gebhart. Let's get to the 4A ranks. Again, standings on the left. Still waiting for the Mountain Rivers Conference in District 6 and the Intermountain League up north in District 1 and 2 to get going with conference play, but everybody else has played, for the most part, at least one conference game. And then the schedule of games, of course, is on the right. Lucas, when you're looking at this schedule of games for Week 7 in the Class 4A landscape, it's almost all conference matchups here. A couple of non-conference affairs, but what game jumps out to you?
Yeah, not to toot my own horn here, but the game that I'm going to be doing on Friday, I'm going to go Homedale Weiser. It's just these 2 teams. I mean, it's always fun anytime they get together, whether it's regular season or they match up quite a bit in the playoffs as well. Homedale #1 team in 4A right now, but here comes Weiser winning 3 games in a row, including a 70 spot that they put up against Pendleton, Oregon a couple of weeks ago. Beat McCall Donnelly in a 1-score game last week as well. So Weiser's playing some of its best ball of the year. They crack. I think they're getting votes in the media poll right now, so they're starting to get a little bit of respect statewide. And here they are hosting Homedale, and the #1 team in the state. So you want to talk about a statement win potentially for Weiser? I mean, here it is. Even if they hang in this game where they lose by 1 or 2 scores, it's probably still a good showing for them to up their respect a little bit in those media polls. But this Weiser Homedale game, I think, is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. Weiser started the year 0-2. They famously lost that game to Buell, where all of us at IdahoSports.com picked Buell to lose in our IdahoSports.com pick 6. And then some of the players came on Gem State Game Day and read me the riot act for picking against them. And then the second loss for Weiser, I actually got to see with my own eyes. They came up to where I live in North Idaho. They came up to Rathdrum to play Lakeland, and that was a game we were broadcasting for IdahoSports.com. I actually thought Weiser played pretty well despite the loss, and then they've kind of very quietly won 3 in a row. They did beat McCall Donnelly last week in a tight game, right, 27-21, but this is what Tom Harrison's teams do. They win the close games, they win the games that count. And so, Weiser Homedale, that's going to be a fantastic battle for sure. They are all 1-0 along with Fruitland in the Snake River Valley Conference standings. Joel, what are you looking at across the 4A landscape?
I'm looking at the Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference, man. I'm looking at Filer at Kimberly. And speaking of Sugar Salem, right, I have my nose plugged because Sugar Salem lost the game to Kimberly. Kimberly was an impressive win. I think it was 2 weeks ago. They just went on. They had a bye week this week, so this is their first conference game. They're 2-3 with one of those wins against the defending champ Sugar Salem, which no one could beat. And then, by the way, Sugar Salem lost again last week or a few weeks ago. So Kimberly, I'm very interested in Kimberly. However, they're technically number 4. They're 4th in their conference. Filer and 2nd in their conference. Filer is also 2-3, but they're 1-0 in conference play. So that's probably why Filer is 2nd and Kimberly is 4th. Well, that is why. But interesting also, Max Preps shows Kimberly at 12th. Media has given them like 5 votes. Filer, Max Preps is number 17. Media has given them 0 votes. So Max Preps and Media kind of aligned there. I would say Kimberly has the higher strength of schedule. Filer with the lower strength of schedule. But for Filer, this win would be huge to get back into the playoff hunt, because I believe, and we'll check this in a little bit, right, Brandon? But I believe Filer is out right now, and they're close, but they're out of the playoff hunt, out of the playoff picture at this time.
Yes, you are 100% right, Joel. So yeah, Kimberly is 2-3. They have played Fruitland 5-0. They have played Homedale 5-0. They played a Sutter Union team from California at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. That was no joke. And then their 2 wins are over Snake River, who is the favorite in the Southeast Idaho Conference, and Sugar Salem. So they have played basically all of their contemporaries at the top of the 4A lexicon. And yeah, they've taken some losses early. They were banged up. They've had some injuries, but man, this Kimberly team, I think, is gelling at the right time. Some other interesting games. Moscow finally took their first loss of the season last week. They're 5-1 now. They're going to welcome a team from Canada. Lethbridge is going to come down and play them Friday night. That will be kind of an interesting one, I think. The game I'm going to spotlight, though, I'll mention really quickly. Sugar Salem 3 weeks ago lost to Star Valley from Wyoming. They're kind of like the Sugar of Wyoming football. They win and everything.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Kimberly, and then they had the bye week. So they had to stew on that Kimberly loss for a whole week. I would not want to be the Preston Indians this Friday. They're going to walk into the Lions Den there at Sugar Salem. That's for sure. The game I'm going to spotlight is Gooding at Buell. We're finally going to figure out if this Gooding team is for real or not. They are 4-0. It has been a soft schedule for the Senators. They did that with the idea of, hey, it's been a couple of years since we've been to the playoffs. The last time we had a guy named Colton Loveland at tight end. He was pretty good. But he's gone now, of course, at Michigan. And so for Gooding, they wanted to bankroll some wins early to hopefully give them some momentum going into conference play. Well, now they've arrived, and we'll find out. Even though they're 4-0, they're only 13th in the Max Preps rankings because of a weak strength of schedule, and they're going to play a really good Buell team out of the gates. We're going to find out this Friday where Gooding sits in the entire hierarchy. Let's go ahead and take a look, though. The playoffs started today, guys. What would that 4A bracket look like? A couple of things to note here. The 5 district champions receive automatic bids to the playoffs. The remaining slots go to the highest-ranked Max Preps teams. But here's the caveat. The teams are then seeded based on the Max Preps ranking. So you'll notice Moscow, a projected conference champ right now, is only the number 8 seed because they're number 8 in the rankings. I kind of like this, Lucas. I think it's a fair way to reward your conference champions, but still say, hey, if there's other teams from other leagues that are better than you, they're going to get seeded higher.
Yeah, and it's just kind of interesting to see how all the different classifications do a little bit differently. I personally think that if you win your conference, I think you should get a top seed. That's just I think that puts a little more kind of emphasis into those conference games, especially when it starts to get late. But yeah, I mean, Moscow kind of sitting there at the 8-9 with the winner, going to Sugar Salem, and we talked about just how Sugar's lost 2 in a row, and Sugar not number 1 seed anymore in 4A. The Sugar's gonna be fine. They'll be fine. Here you go. We're projecting them as the number 1 seed. I think they're going to be just fine. You can't win every single game, right? And when you lose 2 in a row and you drop to 3 in the media poll and the sky's falling, you're going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. So the interesting thing here is the top 4 seeds would receive a first round bye. And in years past, it had been 4 conference champions. Well, not anymore. You've got Sugar Salem 1, Homedale 2, Fruitland 3. They're both from the same league. That might change based upon when those two play each other. But for now, that's what it is. And then Kimberly right now would be the number 4 seed based on our projections. And then, yeah, you've got 9 at 8, Snake River at Moscow. That would be a battle of conference champions, potentially, by the way. Snake River from District 5, Moscow up north. 12 at 5, Teton at Buell. McCall Donnelly at Marsh Valley in the 10-7. And then 11, American Falls at number 6, Weiser. That's right. Teton at 0-5, guys. Right now, the 12 seed, because they've played a pretty rigorous schedule. You figure that's not going to hold, Joel. At some point, they're going to have to get a win somewhere. And like you said, first team out right now would be Gooding. Undefeated Gooding at 4-0 would be squeezed out by a winless team.
Yeah, I don't like that, but I do like how 4A does it, where you get your champs get the auto bids, but then they're ranked accordingly. Lucas has also kind of mentioned this. You got to win games. You might be 0-5 and you might play a hard schedule, but you got to win. You got to win some games. So I think Teton will get it. I think they're running back Jack Joyce, right? He's been out almost the entire season. They really need him back. I don't know if he's coming back, but I think Teton will get a couple wins and should boost their rankings. We haven't talked enough about Marsh Valley, American Falls. I know there's a lot of buzz about Snake River being the favorites, but Marsh Valley is number one in that Southeast Idaho Conference in 4A, and they're a lot better than what people give them credit for. They lost their quarterback to Highland in that transfer, but Marsh Valley is good, so I'm really interested in that McCall Donnelly Marsh Valley team. I don't know if Marsh Valley is better than McCall Donnelly, but that would be a great first round matchup, no doubt.
Yeah, it'd be a fun one in Aramo, that is for sure. And I guess you're right. Marsh Valley currently would be our projected conference champion because they are 1-0 at the top there along with Snake River. So yeah, it would be an interesting one for sure, guys, but some good food for thought for sure. All right, that is what's going on at the 4A ranks. When we come back, the toughest bracket to qualify for, the Class 3A bracket. There's always some good teams that are left at home from the 3A postseason. We'll, of course, take a look at the 3A schedule and the standings as well. Don't go anywhere. Gem State Game Day rolls on right after this on IdahoSports.com.
A hit in the morning, another between class, after school, and more before bed. Vaping sucks you in quick. Not to mention all the chemicals and health problems everyone's talking about. That's why thousands of teens are ready to take back their life their own way with My Life, My Quit. When you sign up with us, you'll get a free and simple quit plan that makes it easier to stop vaping. Visit mylifemyquit.com or text Start My Quit to 36072.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Joel Richardson and Lucas Gebhart. All right, our final 11-man football classification. It is the Class 2A ranks. That is not right. Hold on. The Class 3A ranks. There we go. Sneak peek of what's coming up. Everybody has started conference play. There's only 4 conferences this year. Remember, Declo and Wendell used to compete on their own in the Canyon Conference in District 4, but they have been incorporated into District 5's Southeast Idaho Conference this year. And so that has made a nice, clean 4 divisions. And everybody has played. Kellogg is 2-0 up north. Grangeville is 1-0. Nampa Christian and New Plymouth are both 1-0 in Western Idaho Conference play. Aberdeen 2-0. Malad 1-0 in District 5. And then in the Nuclear Conference, North Fremont and Firth are both off to 1-0 starts. Firth had a nice win over Ryrie last week. Joel, when you look at this Week 7 schedule across the 3A landscape, what game stands out to you?
Well, can I just first say East Idaho dominates 3A? I think in the media poll, they're top 5, right? They have every rank. I think coaches poll as well, media and coaches poll. It's all East Idaho. It's crazy how good 3A football is out here in East Idaho. The game I'm looking at is from out here, East Idaho. It's a battle of the unbeatens. It's you got Nuke versus SCIC Nuke Conference versus Southeast Idaho Conference. North Fremont Huskies versus at Aberdeen Tigers on Friday. North Fremont's 1-0, Aberdeen's 2-0. Those are conference records, and they're both 4-0. This could be a future state playoff game or a championship game even. I mean, look, you got Westside, you got Declo, so maybe not. Maybe that's jumping the gun a little bit, but potential future state playoff game, and we'll look at that in a little bit. North Fremont coming in at number 4 in Max Preps. And then Aberdeen number 1 in Max Preps. Technically, Aberdeen right now number 1. I don't know if that is totally accurate. Of course, we still got to play the rest of the season, but Declan and Westside are good. Declan may be a little better after they beat Westside, but that should be a great game, the battle of the unbeatens.
And the margins are just razor thin over there. I mean, Aberdeen beat Declo 8-0. Declo turns around and beats Westside last week 6-0. I mean, we're talking about very minute margins here.
Really exciting football, let me tell you.
Yeah, Lucas, you're going to go East Idaho too with your game, right?
Yeah, this is the first one where I'm leaving the Treasure Valley, so leaving the homeland for this one. But
we welcome everybody.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, how can you not? With Joel, you said it. I mean, East Idaho dominates 3A football. But yeah, they really do. But I'm gonna go Ryrie, West Jefferson for this one. It's just those are two East Idaho teams with its playoff implications on the line, which is where I'm kind of going with this. Ryrie is 6th right now in the Max Prep rankings. West Jefferson at 9. So when we kind of go ahead and dive into the playoff bracket, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. But whoever wins this game, it's really going to help them in the Max Prep rankings, and it's really going to help them make their case to the computers here that they are a playoff team. So that's the one that I'm looking at, and we're getting to the point of the year here where back when I was living in East Idaho and doing these games every week, it was 2A, but man, these games are fun to do when we hit late September, early October. These teams just run the heck out of the ball. They all play good defense. I mean, these games are won in phone booths, and that Ryrie West Jefferson game is going to be no different.
Yeah, just to note, West Jefferson played Grangeville, who I think is the best team from North Idaho last week, and won 48-40. West J could finish as low as 4th in their division behind North Fremont, Firth, Ryrie. I mean, that top 4, really, really talented. When I look at the schedule, I will make one note. Grangeville supposed to travel to Orofino this Friday. Orofino has forfeited that game due to low numbers. They've just got low numbers on the roster right now. They've got some injuries and some other things. And so Orofino's not punting on the season, but this game in particular. So mark it down. Grangeville's going to be 2-0, 4-2 in the standings after this forfeited win. The game I'm going to hone in, guys, actually, I'm going to go to where Lucas lives, the Treasure Valley. Give me Marcine at New Plymouth. The Pilgrims are only 1-3, but man, they won the game they were supposed to, the conference opener last week. So they're 1-0 in league play. Marcine, conversely, is the only team that hasn't started league play yet, but they're 3-1 overall. And the only loss came to Ryrie. Marcine made the playoffs last year with Coach Shea McClellan. Well, he's at Valley View now. The new coach is also a pretty acclaimed guy from Idaho and Oregon, Mike Forestier, and he's done a pretty good job with this Huskies team. To me, must-win game for New Plymouth. And for Marcine, a loss here would damage their resume quite a bit as well. Because if we look, guys, at the bracket, if the playoffs started today for the 3A football playoffs, it is dominated by East Idaho. I mean, the top 6 slots, Aberdeen, Declo, Westside, North Fremont, Firth, and Ryrie in the rankings all belong to East Idaho teams. This 2A bracket is a tough one to qualify for. They're going to take 12 teams this year. The 4 conference champions are going to receive first-round byes, and they will have home quarterfinal playoff games. So you see there are projected champions: Aberdeen 1, North Fremont 2, Nampa Christian 3, Grangeville 4. The remaining slots will go to the highest-ranked Max Preps teams. This is how it was last year, with the exception that they capped it at no district could have more than 2 at-large teams. So you had like Malad, who would have been good enough to make it last year. Well, sorry, Westside, Aberdeen, and Bear Lake, who's no longer there, they were all good enough to make it. And so Malad, because of the rules that have been set in place, didn't get to go. They've done away with that, which I like. It's just the best pure teams that come in. Now, one caveat: first round matchups to be determined by the football committee. A lot of spelling errors there, I just noticed. But basically, the coaches committee has the discretion to set the first round matchups. Now, last year, they didn't change anything based on the seedings, and that's really the only year we have to go off of. I think it would be something like if a North Idaho team was supposed to travel all the way to like District 5, they might switch that and go, why don't you play somebody from District 3 instead? They're trying to limit travel. But as you see here in our matchup, nobody's going more than 2 districts away. The first round would be Malad at Declo, Melba at Westside, Marcine at Firth, West J at Ryrie. That'd be a great first round matchup. Mm-hmm. Joel, what do you think of this, potential bracket?
I think Lucas is a wizard. He's a prophet, man. Ryrie, West J. How awesome would that be? They play each other now. They play each other again in the play-in. But like Lucas said, if you're Ryrie or West J, you this game is huge because you get that better seed and you maybe avoid playing each other again. So I'm looking at Ryrie, West J. And if you win that game, man, Nampa Christian is good. They're one of my favorite 3A teams outside of East Idaho. But if you win Ryrie West, Jay, playing that Nampa Christian team, that could get you to the semifinals, or I guess the quarters, the semis. Yeah. So I think that's actually might be a sweet spot for if you're a Ryrie West, Jay.
Lucas, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I really do like the idea of having that committee decide those opening round games, especially, when you start talking about budgetary kind of things with schools. I think that's just throwing a little bit of common sense into a system that's ultimately decided by computers. So I do end up liking that. But to me, it's what teams are going to get those first round buys, because right now you look at the media poll right now, you have 3 teams getting first place votes: Aberdeen, Declo, North Fremont. Aberdeen's obviously getting the most of those, and they're the number 1 team in the state. But what do all 3 of those teams have in common? Well, they're all East Idaho, I guess Declo, kind of Magic Valley schools, but they're all kind of in that same type of area, right? I mean, we talked about the whole time about how East Idaho just dominates the 3A classification. So the battle for the top 4 seeds is going to be what I'm keeping an eye on as we roll through the month of October.
If Westside beats Aberdeen, you've got the potential for a 3-way tie at the top of that conference, with everybody having beaten each other. It sounds like I'm going to have to reach out and figure out how that tiebreaker gets settled potentially, but that's just an early look at maybe what the 3A playoffs would look like. Teams that have work to do. New Plymouth just misses on the cut line. Priest River up north has played mostly Washington schools to this point. Really, if a second team from North Idaho wants to get in, Priest River, Kellogg, they got to get to work. You got to start bankrolling some wins because this league, St. Mary's is struggling. Orofino is forfeiting games. There's not a lot of opportunities to pick up marquee wins. So that's kind of who's on the cut line as we take a look at it there. All right, guys, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll break down all of the 8-man action, 2A and 1A. Don't go anywhere. Gem State Game Day back after this on IdahoSports.com.
Later.
Here. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I had my seatbelt on.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Joel Richardson and Lucas Gebhart. Let's get to 8-man football here, Class 2A and 1A ranks. We'll go through these ones a little quicker. If you want a more comprehensive look at what's going on, you can always tune into the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. That is our special podcast we do each week just for 8-man football with myself and Will Henneke and former Carey head coach Lane Kirkland. We have a great time every week. Those are every Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time, right here on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Here is the Week 7 schedule across the 2A landscape. Lucas, tee it up to you first. What's the 2A matchup you're most excited to see here in Week 7?
Well, this one kind of goes a little bit against the grain of what I've been doing the whole show. I've been trying to pick, games that I think have playoff implications coming into this week. I'm going to go with the game that, both these teams are probably going to be in the playoffs, and that's Potlatch at Kendrick. Kendrick being number 1 team in the latest media poll, but Potlatch just kind of right there, right outside that top 5. And with that game, Potlatch has got to go on the road, so obviously a tough game for them. But Potlatch, looking at that game, they've had this game circled on their calendar for weeks, and Potlatch is a really good team. This is a team that undefeated coming into the game, 44-0 win to open the year. They have another 36-14 win, a 48-20 win over Clearwater Valley, and then their latest win over Troy, 82-20. So Potlatch has just been rolling through its schedule up to this point. So this is really their first test of the year, obviously against a number 1 team in Kendrick. So that's the one that I'm going to be watching up north here in the 2A class.
Yeah, young Potlatch team as well. I think only 2 seniors on this year's roster. Joel, what are you looking at for 2A?
I'm looking at the Snake River Conference, man. 1 versus 2. Glens Ferry Pilots at the Valley Vikings on Friday. Glens Ferry coming in at Glens Ferry coming in at 1-0 in conference play. Valley coming in at 3-0. Valley's number one. They might be the team to beat. I mean, as well, especially in Snake River, but maybe they could give Kendrick a run. I don't know if anyone can give Kendrick a run, frankly, but I'm curious how Potlatch will do against Kendrick. But Valley's really good in their conference. Both teams are undefeated in conference play. Valley's Max Prep's their number 4. Glens Ferry's number 14. So an upset against Valley would be huge for their Max Preps rankings. Media's given Glens Ferry some love, though. They're number 5. And I want to say Valley is number 2 in the media poll. Is that right, Brandon? Anyway, Valley is getting love, of course, but Glens Ferry Pilots having a good season. So really interested to see how this 1 versus 2 goes.
Yeah, I think it's a clear top 2 right now. Kendrick and Butte County, the defending champs. And then I think Valley is number 4 in the polls. Logos is number 3. Guys, just for chaos sake, give me Idaho City at Notice. So far in the Western Idaho Conference, Rimrock has beaten Notice. Notice has beaten Wilder. Wilder has beaten Idaho City. Let's complete the train. Idaho City, take care of business, get a win. Let's get a 4-way tie for first place potentially when it's all said and done. I love watching the chaos unfold. That's where I'm looking there for the 2A ranks. Really quickly, we'll show you if the playoffs started today. We'll do a deeper dive into this on the 8-man Prepcast. But if the playoffs started today, 4 district champions receive a first round bye. The remaining slots go to the highest ranked Max Preps teams. Quarterfinals will be seeded 1 through 8 based on Max Preps rankings. Right now, it would be Butte County as the number 2 seed because Kendrick, the number 1 seed right now, is not our projected conference champion because Logos has more conference wins. Could be Kendrick, and if that's the case, they'll be the number 1 seed. Right now, though, we've got Logos. They'd be the number 3 seed. Valley, the 4 seed. And really, Rimrock or whoever wins that Western Idaho Conference, you can pretty much lock in they're going to be the number 8 seed. Rimrock is the currently highest-ranked team from that league. They're number 14 overall. Other matchups would be Potlatch at Kendrick. We're going to see that Friday night, of course. Glens Ferry at Hagerman, Kamei at Grace, and Prairie at Rat River. And again, that's all hypothetical. Let's wrap up with 1A football, guys. Here is the Week 7 schedule. Again, standings on your left, schedule on the right. Joel, I'll go to you first. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, Cary Panthers versus Rockland Bulldogs, man. Cary's having a great season, maybe better than what people, especially 8-man fans, anticipated. A win would improve Max Preps more for Rockland than Cary, I think. Cary's sitting really nice right now, but it would show a win for Cary would show that the Max Preps ranking fits. Cary they only have that 1 loss to Butte County, but they lost by 20, which isn't much in 8-man. That's what maybe a touchdown in 11-man football. So strong strength of schedule and strong loss, if you want to call it that, for Cary. And then for Rockland, they've had losses to Diedrich and Hagerman, both great teams. Diedrich really, really strong. And then Cary, hey, they're coming at 3-0 in conference play, 4-1 overall. I mentioned Max Preps, Cary number 2, Rockland number 4. So man, if Rockland gets an upset over Cary, I think that'd be huge for them.
Yeah, Rockland in that loss to Hagerman 2 weeks ago was down to 10 healthy players by the time it was done. They're already down to their 3rd string quarterback this season, and yet doesn't seem to phase them much. They're just plugging in the next athlete and letting them run wild. Lucas, what's the game you're looking at here in Week 7?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it, throughout the show, but, talking about teams that have to start bankrolling wins. Well, 2 of them are playing each other here in 1A, and that's Cascade and Salmon River. Cascade right now, both these teams on the outside looking in and are projected, playoff brackets that we'll get to here in a sec. But Cascade sitting at 12th in the Max Prep, Snake River at 16. So 2 teams that are kind of, and when you start factoring the auto bids and stuff, 2 teams that right now not in the playoff bracket, but 2 teams that I think could get there. But to get there, got to start winning games. And both these teams, I think this is a must win for both teams here this week.
For sure. And I'll go with, Council at Tri-Valley is going to be a fun game in the Long Pin Conference. But give me Wallace at Genesee. Genesee played Lakeside, the first place team from District 1 last week. Now they're going to get Wallace, kind of the other big Titan. We'll see where Genesee stands in everything when that game is all said and done. Here's our 1A playoff bracket. Again, 4 district champions received the first round bye. Outside of that, the lowest ranked conference champion, because there's 5 conferences, will play the lowest at-large team in the first round right now. That would be Deary in our projections over there in District 2. So we've got Dietrich 1, Tri-Valley 2, Rockland 3, Lakeside 4. And then we'll have North Gem at Deary, Chalice at Cary, Mackey at Council, Shoshone at Garden Valley. Just missing out on the cut line right now would be Cascade, as we noted, because Deary is actually ranked lower than them, but they would get in via the winning the conference. And Wallace also 4-1. They would be out of the playoffs too if they started today. So just interesting food for thought there. That is for sure. All right, guys, it is time to wrap up the show. Let's take a look really quickly at what's on tonight. Here's our game streams schedule of games here on IdahoSports.com. 4 good matchups for you this week. Homedale at Weiser. Lucas, you'll be at that game. Twin Falls at Pocatello. Rigby at Highland, our Gem State game of the week. That's where you'll be, Joel. And then Minico at Idaho Falls. That's our game streams schedule here in week number 7 on IdahoSports.com. And really only one question left to answer. Are you ready? Hey, let's get to our IdahoSports.com pick 6. So each week we have 6 IdahoSports.com prepcasters, and we each pick the outcome of 6 different games, one for each of the 6 classifications in the great state of Idaho. Here are this week's selections for our pick 6. You'll notice the season standings, guys. Scott Burton in first place at 26-10. Me and Ryan Skaggs, though, hot on his heels. We're each a game back at 25-11. Logan Green at 23-13. He is 3 games back. Paul Kingsbury 4 games back at 22-15. And East Idaho's own Sean Kane bringing up the rear, 21-15, 5 games back. He is in the cellar. The games this week: Centennial and Capital, Canyon Ridge and Burley, Gooding and Buell, North Fremont and Aberdeen, Potlatch and Kendrick, and Council and Tri-Valley. I took Capital over Centennial, Canyon Ridge over Burley, Buell over Gooding, North Fremont over Aberdeen, Kendrick over Potlatch, and Council over Tri-Valley. Joel, what game did I get wrong, and tell me why?
Oh man, what game? How about games, Brandon? No, I'm kidding. I noticed that you chose Buell, by the way. Very smart of you to choose Buell over Gooding. I think you got North Fremont, Aberdeen wrong. I think Aberdeen wins that game, man. Aberdeen, they're really good. North Fremont historically better. I think Max Preps has got it right. I don't know if Aberdeen's number 1 overall right now because Westside Declo, but I think Aberdeen wins that game, man.
All right, Lucas, any games you want to quibble with that I made here?
You know, I tend to agree with most. There's a couple that I might, flip flop on them, and I think there's really 2. Joel touched on one of them, North Fremont, Aberdeen. That to me, that one could go either way. Another one I think go either way is Buell Gooding. I think those are 2 pretty good teams there, and so if I had to pick one, I would take a Gooding instead of Buell. But maybe another one that I don't know. We'll see what the other guys pick, but I'm telling you, dude, Potlatch is good this year. I mean, they're just rolling through that schedule. I know Kendrick's the number 1 team, but that Potlatch Kendrick game might be closer than people think.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be a fun one for sure. And yeah, if you're wondering, hey, where's Scott's picks? What about Skaggs? Where are the rest of the guys? You'll have to stay tuned to IdahoSports.com's social media. We always release the full complement of picks after Gem State Game Day has aired. All right, guys, and that'll do it. Boy, a chock-loaded week 7. We're to the point of the season now where the games really start to matter. You're talking about mini playoff games leading up to the actual postseason. It is going to be so much fun. Thank you again to Joel and Lucas. Joel, enjoy the game Friday night, Rigby and Highland.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. You're going to be there, right?
No, I am not going to be there.
Oh, man, right in the heart. Never mind. It's going to be a great game, Rigby Highland. It's going to be better because just kidding. No, really looking forward to Rigby Highland, man. Great game. Playoff implications, 1-2. Really excited.
Lucas, have fun at Weiser and Homedale Friday night in Weiser. Should be a fun game.
Yep, bit of a drive for me. Weiser's about an hour and a half from my house, but it'll be worth the drive for sure. But yeah, that'll be a fun game. And Joel, your Highland Rigby game, man, that's gonna be fun. Have fun at that one, man. That's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, we're really starting to broadcast, games that have implications on IdahoSports.com, which is always good to see as well. All right, thanks for tuning in to Gem State Game Day, everybody. Enjoy the competition this weekend. For Joel Richardson and Lucas Gebhart, I'm Brandon Baney, and we will see you back here next Thursday morning for the Week 8 edition of Gem State Game Day.